Well, hello there. Welcome back to my Travel Stitch Journal number 4. This is Allison, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm excited to share with you our week at San Clemente State Beach, Site 66, and I just felt like we had the perfect view of the ocean and shared it with our kids and our grandkids. But first off, I got to stitching. I am currently working on a Stitch in Heaven block of the month called Southwest Oasis. And there are supposed to be 20 blocks that I build. And I know I took down to camping 2 of the undone blocks of the month. I get there and I realized that I had my ruler, I had my cutting mat, and I had my ironing pad, but I couldn't remember if I had a rotary cutter, and I didn't see one in the drawer. Thankfully, a couple days down the road, I found one in the very back of the long drawer under the dinette set where Eric happens to be sitting at the moment, but that was great to find that. There is a neat idea that I found about coming up with colors to work with when you do find a pattern. And the options are wide open to you. You can figure out how you want to lay out the drama side of the colors versus the cool side of the colors. And one of the biggest and most common struggles for quilters are the skills for pairing those colors. Some of us stare at colors, or some of us get totally worked up in a store when we see, or online when we see fabrics, and just jump to it, and then later maybe regret the colors that we put together. So where do we begin? Well, taking some guesswork out of the choosing of colors, we have insight to playing with colors when we study the color wheel a little bit better. When you go back to your primary art class, or when teachers tried to teach you the color wheel, those play a really good partnership when you see what's across the color wheel and pull colors. You also want to think about pattern, the color relationships and the patterns with one another. Are they of the right genre or theme? Are they, opposite of each other? Be observant and start playing with some of those ideas. You want to observe your surroundings and then make mental notes on the hues that complement one another. You want to maybe take a picture so that you can reference it later. I know that I've had lessons on color intensity using black and white photos of your fabrics. You want to search for materials that are similar in shades and values. After we choose coordinating colors that are going to run across the quilt, we need to make sure that we have prints that are going to work together, whether they be small, medium, or large, and it could be tone on tones. We need to make sure that we're perfectly happy with everything coordinating with one another. There's a really neat way of organizing your quilt color choices on computer programs. Not something that I've found yet, but I would really like to do that because, of course, that would cut down on waste of fabric or brokenheartedness at the end of a quilt project. You want to make sure that you find inspiration in the backing that you choose, that it kind of works with the same story of colors and patterns. I like to go bigger on my backing, and then of course have fun finding a binding that's going to somehow connect the two, like a binding of a book. If I'm pulling fabrics from my stash to make a high value contrast quilt, I usually start by pulling a few of the darkest prints that I'm really digging, that I really have had in my wheelhouse that I want to use. And then of course I pull a few of my lightest prints. And then you want to play with what other darks and lights that you might add but aren't real, like, definite on. There are certain dark fabrics that are going to add more contrast or sparkle and glow based on the colors that make them up. Even some fabrics with large prints can be strategically utilized and made to work and really pop. You want to pair darks and lights in a block that will create the nicest contrast that you can create. There's so many different ways that you can select fabrics for patterns that you find online, and I just thought I'd talk a little bit about that as I had just read an article in one of my favorite magazines about that while I was standing there stitching. I know that I didn't talk while I was doing all that. I was really focusing on getting those pieces cut out. And I know Eric was over there on his phone working, and so I didn't really want to talk over him. And I just work better if I'm not chit-chatting it up and concentrating on my patterns. I know I had made a couple of cutting errors, but thankfully I had enough leftover fabric from blocks of the month in other months that came with some extra, and I was able to make it work. Alrighty. Okay, looks like I've checked everything off, and I've got my little red Bernina sewing case somewhere there, and I keep it under the table. This is a machine that a parent didn't know where the foot pedal or the cord was for it, and it was their friend's, and she didn't know what to do with it, so she gave it to me, and I had to take it to my local shop and got to pay good money to have a new pedal bought for that machine. It works beautifully. It's super simplistic, has just the basic stitches, and isn't real loud, and it doesn't rock the table back and forth. It just does its thing. It's really nice. It is basically a Bernina featherweight, and I believe it's from, when I searched the serial number, 1976 model. I brought a magazine down to the beach, and I read a neat article about a designer by the name of Cassie Hams, and she and her mom and her grandma have all been stitchers or quilters, and I think she lives in the same town where she grew up in Michigan. Her mom has published numerous books and designed. She feels really fortunate that her and her mom are like best friends. Looks like Cassie earned her bachelor's and her master's from Oakland University, and she was full-time into the corporate world, and then just found herself not real happy and started designing and pursuing freelance work. And by April of this year, she has completely signed off of that work and joined in with her mom in design and her, I think they have a shop, I'm not sure, but their business. And through lots of coffee, they keep it going. She has been sewing since she was 4 years old, and her mom and she have really, really enjoyed it. And then the article ends with my favorite quote that she says from her mom that, quote, "Quilters don't get better with time. They get better with practice." And I completely identify with that. That is so, so true. I just really feel like in the time that I have been a part of quilting, hardcore, I think, since about the 2000 aughts, it's just really taken over my world, where before, since the 70s, 80s, 90s, I was hardcore. Oh my goodness, nothing's better than embroidery. A breakfast of French toast. My daughter-in-law had left a lovely loaf of cinnamon bread, gluten-free cinnamon bread, and we never used it, so I got on it and cut it up and bathed it in some eggs. And Eric's out on our grill outside there, grilling it up. Love it. How much is left? A good amount, yeah, for scrambled. Did you put much milk in? Just a splash. You want to use up all your coffee milk? That's okay. I have cream down low. I got Cobb salad making for tonight. Does that sound okay? With all our leftovers and veggies. Okay. Yeah. And the Dutch oven slid down the milk. Got it against the door. Yeah. This was manufactured August 3rd, 20. Gotta get a book put on it. Or a grill. Wait. So say that again, Eric.
I think bread's too heavy.
Does it chew nice?
Mm-hmm. It's got a nice flavor.
Gave you the hiccups, though. It's so heavy. Okay. Gotta get ready to scarf up. Now, I know in one of my sessions of sewing in the camper or the trailer, I had my Zoom buddies on from Create, and I just could not use what I had filmed of my Stitch buddies. I don't know why the trailer roof being lower makes my recording go upside down, so it was kind of just not usable. So what I think I'm going to do right now is go to Zoom and see if I can't get a hey ho what's up, and I'm gonna stick it in right here. Hi girls, my Zoom buddies. What are you up to? Hi Sally. Hi Wendy. Hi Tracy. How's it going?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, good. Word up. What are you doing, Sally?
I'm just putting the last border on the arrows quilt.
Very good. Excellent. Wendy, what's up with you?
I'm working on some cross stitch for my granddaughter.
Oh, very nice. Is it a small or is it a good size one?
A medium size.
Oh yes, oh yes. Yeah, no kidding. Very pretty. Aw. And Tracy, what are you doing?
I'm working on some hexagons, hand stitching.
Wow. Did you just start that or have you done that for a while?
This is the one that I've been working on for a while.
Oh, very good. Oh, and Lois is coming. Lois!
Just talking about both of you, actually.
What are you doing, Lois?
What?
What are you doing today?
I was at the hospital all day.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, just say hi to my fans here on YouTube.
Oh, hi, fans.
Hi, fans. Okay, you guys, I'm going to slip this in. Thanks so much. I'll be back. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was a fun plus. I had more than just sass from the other day, and so I hope you enjoyed that. I got what I needed to complete it, or what my goal was for the trip, and just really, really enjoyed it. Thank you, son. Thank you, Park. Everybody take care. This was a lovely meal we prepared post grandkids. We really enjoyed having them. Love having Everly, Ada, Elias, and their parents. Bye, Miss Everly. Love you, sweetheart.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming. Have a
Thank
good week.
you.
Keep us informed. FaceTime, young lady. FaceTime. We're doing it.
We're doing it. Bye.
Seven straight days.
They really, they were here for 7 days.
Oh, thank you, Ada.
About 6 or
Can you
7,
blast off
and
now?
they get up in the morning, play that cornhole.
Ada
Start
took
drinking.
off my hat.
Real.
That's a long day.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't have to drive too far, because you can't tell me they're not hungover. And if you're hungover, you're still drunk.
That's right.
And back.
I would say we have I just stay.
Oh, here comes another doggy, Ada. Ada! Ada, look! Ada! Over there!
Look at
The doggy! There's the doggy!
Did you survive, Ada? Cleaning your booties, Eli?
You gotta pull your shorts, the strap open a little bit.
Hey. You ready?
There we go.
Somebody didn't call.
Did you survive, Ada?
Barely.
Barely. Did your mama get all that sand out of you?
Dad did, and Grandpa.
Oh, wow.
All right, good. Good. Get your shoes back on. Don't get them your feet all sandy.
Oh!
Go rinse them off.
To wrap up this travel stitch vlog, I had promised my friend Sally Tyne that I'd provide some more information on this area's quite famous residence, the Western White House. There is a really nice, quick display of this area's history in what is the former groundskeeper's cottage here at the campground. It's open on Mondays, Fridays, and Sundays, and of course not on Saturdays, as there is often a wedding taking place on the grounds somewhere. We have seen small weddings on the lawn of the cottage or out in the bluff, which costs you more, of course, and there is a pretty patio at the back of the cottage, along with a nicely added professional kitchen. Anyway, in a room inside the cottage, there is a display with a lot of historical information that can help me tell the story of what became known as the Western White House. The cottage is also used for weddings, and right inside the door you can find a brochure, which I did, and gosh, for a weekend it's $5,000 and $500 more if you'd like a license to have alcohol, and it has to be your host. You cannot sell it. And then I went into the back room and found pictures, photos of when it was fish camp. So even back up turn of the century into the 30s, it was a famous getaway for fishing. And then in the 30s, it was known as fishing and surfing, and long surfboards. San Onofre surfing was very famous. And that, of course, now is Trestles and San Onofre. And there's a series of beaches there that are famous for surfing. A part of the back room that hosts these posters also leads into the beginning of Camp Pendleton, and that began, of course, for training our Marine Corps members in the 40s for World War II. And it is still a humongous base, 20 miles of base on the 5 freeway, and then it goes inland for quite a bit. This is Sergeant Basilone. There is a freeway off-ramp honoring him. And then it goes into creating an area of wilderness refuge. It's lots of history here. California State Parks entered into a 50-year lease agreement with the federal government in August of 1971, and the terms of the contract eventually granted public access to more than 3,000 acres of coastal, chaparral, and beachfront property, extending from San Diego, the county line, to a point nearly 6 miles down coast that had been a part of the United States Marine Corps base, Camp Pendleton. The new parkland would be administered by California State Parks as a recreational facility. And despite the fact that the agreement hadn't yet been signed, it was considered a done deal, and the Marine Corps began to pull its resources off the property. State Parks began to provide lifeguards and maintenance services at San Onofre Bluffs in the spring of 1971. And operated the campground situated on the asphalt of Old Highway 101 that sat between what is now Interstate 5 and the ocean. In a scramble, State Parks hired 15 new lifeguards and substantially augmented their staff of park rangers and maintenance workers, and so on. Following his presidential inauguration in 1969, President Richard Nixon directed his staff to locate a secluded, security-proof luxury location along the Southern California coast that he might use as his summer White House or permanent residence following his term in office. Within months, the Nixons had settled on the former Hamilton Cotton Estate, purchasing the 26-acre parcel and 14-room Spanish colonial mansion for $340,000. Located on the southernmost coastal bluff in San Clemente and immediately adjacent to the Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton, the Western White House became known as La Casa Pacifica. But that was to change. Shortly after Nixon became president, he began planning for his legacy, envisioning the establishment of his presidential library on Camp Pendleton coastal property neighboring the Western White House. With federal law prohibiting this use of the Marine Corps base property for this purpose, Nixon set out a chain of events that ultimately led to the transfer of more than 7 million acres of, quote, underutilized federal land in the creation of the National Parklands and Forests, state, county, and even city parks, forests, and recreational open space. This undertaking was known as the Legacy of Parks program, and in 1971, the 6 miles of coast and 3,000 inland acres along San Mateo Creek were among the first parcels to be transferred, thereby creating San Onofre State Beach. The complete transfer of the beach took several years, but effectively guaranteed public access to this zone of remarkable cultural, historical, and natural value and recreational value. The Legacy of Parks program is today considered to have been one of Nixon's most significant and beneficial domestic undertakings. Nixon truly believed in the inspirational value of outdoor recreation and the importance of preserving the finest elements of our natural resources for all generations to come. Nixon's hopes for the presidential library within the new state park sadly were dashed in 1974 when he was forced to resign in disgrace. But San Onofre State Beach remains as a shining example of the best of his legacy, today recognized as the world treasure and referred to as Yosemite of surfing. Our last dinner before we were going to be leaving on Thursday morning, so this is Wednesday night, we woke up to a very foggy day. And then on Thursday morning, it was not as foggy, but it was still overcast. Getting everything put away. My responsibility is making sure the tire chocks are picked up, but it's not time yet. Eric takes his time getting everything hooked up. One thing at a time. I don't talk to him when he's doing that, so he is not distracted and can think seriously about all the ins and outs of everything he has to attach.
Can you grab me the bar?
Yes, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. It'd be great if you'd leave me a comment. Any questions? That'd be wonderful. Like it if you did. All those wonderful YouTube subscription things. As we head out, Eric does definitely follow the speed limit, which I believe is 5 miles per hour. There could be kids popping out from any of those trailer areas. The yards are not that large in the RV section. Over in the dry camping to the right of this picture, there's much more room between campsites for tents and for kids to play and cornhole to be set up and whatnot. There's a trade-off. You do get to have all kinds of wonderful, electricity and sewage and water on this side. But there is definitely a payoff for being over in the yard. I think in the camp yard, dry camping yard, it is quieter. People follow campers midnight, I think, a little more seriously, basically after dinner. It's quiet. And as usual, it's always kind of heart-wrenching to drive out. You can't wait to go back next time. It's just so fun to get away. And off we go. Thank you so much. And on to our next adventure, which I believe is in the middle of October. So we have a week and a half more to go, and we'll be at Halama up in Central California, just above Santa Barbara. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon.